Okay, thanks very much, everyone. So just a reminder that this is part of our round 3 webinar series about the fund. We've held our first 2 webinars already. So we've had an intro to the Green Spaces Fund and what it's all about. We've also had a meeting the essential criteria webinar as well. This is all about the application process, and we do have 3 more webinars in this series that are happening in the coming weeks that you can register for on Eventbrite, just like you've done today. And they're all about the aims of the fund. So we'll have a reminder at the end of those dates of the webinars as well. And every webinar will be recorded and shared online on the GSF website. So today is all about the application portal. So in a second, we'll bring up the portal, as that is the only way that you can apply for the Green Spaces Fund. You can absolutely and more than welcome, and we would recommend actually writing out answers to the application on a Word document separately. But please do bear in mind that you have to submit your application through the live online portal for it to be accepted and part of the bunch of applications. So today we're going to run you through that process and how you work the portal, and we'll touch a bit on how you can properly, write answers and make it a really good application. But that will also be covered as well in the upcoming webinars about the aims and how you can really address those questions to make sure you get as high marks as possible. So I will hand over to Lydia now, who will start sharing her screen and run you through the first part of the portal and getting into it.
Thank you, Amy. I will just do this and hopefully. Anyway, can you all see my screen?
Yeah, looking good.
I'll just minimize you here. So you may all be familiar with the GSF website. This is it. And to get to the portal, it is just this kind of hidden little link here where it says you can access here. So if you just click these words here, you're taken to another tab with the portal. So I'm just going to go through and show you kind of how to create your account and what the portal looks like, so you're all familiar with it. And like Amy said before, this will go on the website afterwards. So if you're kind of going to start it and you forget everything that I say, don't worry, you'll have time to revert back. And once I've done this, I'll pause for questions and then we'll move on to the next section. So once you're taken to this link, you could obviously either go to login or register. So we're going to register an account now. So you just go down, you see kind of your regular data policies. Feel free to read through those, make sure you understand what you're signing up to, but obviously it's just kind of your standard terms and conditions. I've previously created an account on here, so I'm just going to whiz past those for efficiency right now. So you agree to the terms, press continue, and then it will ask for a little bit of information. So I'm just going to pop my details in here and going to use and then just create some sort of password. Probably will want special characters and a number. Hope I can remember what I put in. Maybe not. There we go. So once you've got your password and your email, you'll get taken to here, and then you're registered. So then you can log in, and that will take you here. As you can see, I've already made an account previously, but I just thought it would be easier to do it this way. I can remember.
Just while Lydia's logging in there, so you will get a email for the email address that you've signed up for, and it'll just send you a link saying confirm registration email, confirm email address. If you click on that, it'll take you straight through to the portal, and then there is a confirmation email that will get sent to you as well, where you can click to log in, and then you feel free to log in at any time like Lid's doing now.
Oh, it's not working. So we'll go with my previously set up one. Very Blue Peter moment one I did earlier. So you'll be taken to the welcome screen once you've logged in, and I'm sure it'll go more smoothly than mine just did. You have a little background to kind of GMEF and who they are. and all the information here. So obviously it's not super clear. So I believe if you go to my account, then you've got a little bit of information. I've obviously already populated this previously, hence it's got my details in. So you have your account, you can add some details there, and then you'll see on the left hand side my account, my contact details, available grants, and my applications. So if you go to available grants, you will then be taken to a portal where you will see Green Spaces Fund Round 3 and Recycle for Greater Manchester. They're the two funds that GMEF are currently running. So don't get confused and think you've ended up in the wrong place. They are running parallel to each other at this moment in time. So you're obviously welcome to apply for the Recycle for Greater Manchester Fund, but obviously currently we're just looking at Green Spaces Fund, so you can just start your application and you'll get taken to this screen where again it just explains the fund and everything that's about, and this is all shown in the guidance as well. So if you've read the guidance, this will all be super familiar to you. Nothing to worry about here. Just scroll down, have a little read, see if you can apply, what we can fund, what we can't fund. So that's great. And then you can get the documents here. So you can download a copy of the guidance and our FAQs, and that will be good to have side by side when going through the portal and submitting your application. So once you've read that, you just have to agree again, and then you can start your application. So this will load into this screen, and you start on the essential criteria. Oh no, sorry, you don't, get ahead of myself. You start with your summary screen. So this is where you can break it down into each aspect of the portal, which is really helpful. So you can just start one, you can start the essential criteria, finish that and think, oh, well, I know more about how much money I'm asking for. So you can fill that in. You don't have to do it in chronological order. And you can stop and start as you go. And obviously we've got until June, so this will help in terms of strengthening your application as you go on, as you come up with ideas. So I'll leave us here for now, and I'll stop sharing my screen, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or shout up, and I'll try and answer as best I can.
Thanks, Lyd. I think Elijah's got a hand up.
Hi, yeah. It looked like we had to open an account.
Yes.
That's going to be me. But the people applying would be separate to me. And the reason being is that just nobody's got IT skills within the group. Is that okay if I am different to the person? So I assume the application is going to say named or first contact, and that's just not going to be me. Is that all right, the account holder and stuff?
That should be fine. Obviously, we have an understanding that not everybody is going to be going to be tech savvy, so there will be an opportunity for you to put lead contact and secondary contact. So yeah, it will just be that if, for like Amy said, if there's anything that needs verifying through the portal, you'll get those emails rather than the person submitting. But if that's fine, then okay.
So I'll literally just be a conduit. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Thank you. And in the chat, Ian has just said closing date for round 3, please. Very good question. It's still to be confirmed, and that when it's updated and firmed up and finalised, that will be on the website. So keep a look out on there, but it's likely to be June. Okay. Any other questions about getting in and setting up on the portal? Perfect. Okay, I'll move us on then. So I'm just going to share my screen now with the next part of the process, which is, and hopefully you can all see that. Perfect. So as Lyd says, you can see here all of the sections that you need to complete. So if we go to number 1, essential criteria, I'll just take you through what that looks like. Oh dear. Bear with me 1 second. I don't know what it's. Oh, well, here we go. Testing out issues live. That's totally fine. So you can always log out, log back in again. I'm just going to log in using my account here. Okay. And we're back in the game. So always happens when you're doing things live, doesn't it? Right, so the essential criteria section. So as you can see here, there are a few questions that you have to answer, and each of the mandatory questions, as it says there, are indicated by the red asterisks. So we have spoken about the sort of essential criteria and covering it off in our last webinar. So if you weren't at that one and want to be refreshed on what you need to meet as an essential criteria for the fund, please do go back and watch that. But basically here it's asking you to tick whether you own the land for the project or if you have the correct legal permission to access the site and carry out the project. So you're either the landowner or you have written permission from the landowner, or you'll get proof prior to the award, which is required. So either one of those options, whichever applies to you, tick there. And then the next question is about who the landowner is. Again, you must have landowner permission. So whether that's the local authority or a private landowner, just type in, it's a text box there. So you just type their name of the landowner there. And then you need to upload the written permission evidence from the landowner. So it says there your project must have landowner permission before you apply to the fund. And there is a note saying we require a commitment to maintaining the project as delivered for a minimum of 3 years following completion of the project. So you can click there to upload your file wherever it's saved on your PC or your laptop and upload it. That can be an email, so you can upload an email or a screenshot of the email, or it can be a letter from the landowner, so Word document, PDF, whatever you have, you can upload it there. And then there is a section here about public access. So this is a key criteria of the fund. The space that you're working on for the Green Spaces Fund must have access for members of the public at all times. We say at all times, we sort of say golden rule, park opening hours, so from 8 till 8. There is some flexibility around that, but rule of thumb is it needs to be publicly accessible to the majority, and not just your organisation's members. And then if you want more sort of refreshment on what that means, there is another link to the guidance document there that Lid's mentioned before. So it's just a tick box there as to whether it will be accessible or not. If you tick yes, which hopefully it is, you can then type in what days or hours your project is open to the public. So you can put a number, 7 days, 7 hours, whatever it is, just to give us a bit more information there. And then this is a section about planning permission. So it is needed, if it is needed, then you must have received this in writing. Proof will be asked for before you apply. So either you tick it is needed and you've already got it, or you tick planning permission is not needed for your application. So whichever is relevant to you. So that is the first essential criteria section. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen there and pause for any questions if anyone has any around the essential criteria section.
It looks very similar. Sorry.
I've got, yeah, it's just you mentioned green space. Does that include blue space? So some of my work is river corridor improvement work, which is ultimately public land. Is that, you'd see that as accessible green space, would you?
Yeah, and the fund is definitely open to improving green and blue. So that's fine, as long as you just detail, whoever owns the land that you're working on nearby, and yeah, whether the permission is that you have of that. I think that would be fine. Is that right, Lyd?
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's also kind of a caveat that we've not had many blue space improvements as a nod to take on however you want to take that, Adam. But yeah, both equally important, aren't they, for what the fund's trying to achieve? So yeah, I wouldn't say there's any issue there.
Ian, did you have a question?
It's funny enough, it's what Adam asked, but my sort of second question is more one of this looks very similar to the community spaces applications. Is that correct? You won't remember that. Do you remember the community spaces applications about 10-15 years ago? No? Right.
Who ran that?
Before your time. It was, I mean, it was very much lottery funding, stroke government funding through groundwork.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think a lot of councils applied for that. Do you remember Pathfinder? No, right, okay.
Sorry.
A bit before your time, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It is probably similar to some of the questions that those kind of project funding asked for. This is funded through Greater Manchester Environment Fund. Yeah, Greater Manchester Combined Authority funded this one. Yeah, probably very similar though.
Thank you.
Elijah, have you got a question?
Yeah, I wouldn't have had it had Ian not spoke. Are local authorities allowed to apply for this then, or does it have to just be groups constituted or otherwise?
It's aimed at community groups.
Right, okay.
And, groups of residents, local charities, local authorities can act as accountable bodies. Is that right?
Yeah. So they can't apply solely, but they can obviously be the accountable body, so they can hold funds. If they own the land, then obviously that permission comes through them. But obviously they can't hold the. They can hold the grant, but they can't use the grant. Yeah.
So they can't be the applicant?
No.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Ian?
Just on that, thank you. Could you tell us a bit more about the accountable body? Whether it's useful to have one on board as a partner?
I guess it depends what you
like a local authority, for instance. I mean, obviously, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
Obviously, most of the parks are under local authority ownership. So we obviously have to go to the local authority for permission, a letter. I used to write them on behalf of the groups, etc., to say, right, this is open 24/7. The council gives permission for the group to do this, that, and the other, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. But is it worthwhile to actually have in partnership the local authority to say, right, yeah, we fully endorse this project, blah, 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 we are the accountable body, or not, as the case may be? What is the accountable? Can you explain, I think, for others, what the accountable body is, please?
Okay, so for example, a group that has just been successful in the second round is using the funding to build a community garden space on Rochdale Borough-wide housing land. They're just a community centre in Haywood. It's just one lady and maybe 3 other residents that have put the application in through the community centre. But because RBH are obviously a housing association, they're a bit more established and it's their land, like you've just said, for ease. RBH have been used as the accountable body, so they can easily give permission, land ownership access, and then for some, depending on the relationship you want to establish with your accountable body, you can agree maintenance if the group can't maintain it. Obviously, that might not be the same with local authorities because a lot of them are quite stretched anyway. So the idea that a group would take the land is that they would maintain the land. So without being too vague to answer your question, the relationship is whatever you need it to be to ensure that that space will be maintained, will be sustainable. If you need a maintenance clause in there, go ahead, try it. If you don't, if you've got the backing from the community group, you don't need it. So yeah, very vague, unfortunately, but it's they can provide policy documents, safeguarding documents, all of those things. I know a lot of groups that are very new don't have those, so you don't have to worry about those. If you're unconstituted, again, accountable bodies have the bank account, so they provide those bank details, they hold the funds. Obviously there's an understanding there then, isn't there, how they spend the funds on your behalf and all the expenses and things like that. So it's very much down to those two to determine that relationship. I guess is my long-winded answer.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's right. And the main purpose of the accountable body is mainly to support groups who are really new, unconstituted, who don't have those documents in place, who maybe don't have a bank account, and they have the support of the accountable body to hold the funds and to help them with that side of things. I think in that case, Ian, working closely with the local authority is a really good idea, especially, you know, if you need permission and getting that sorted and out of the way sooner rather than later, but probably more of a partnership relationship there rather than them acting as an accountable body unless you need them to. But yeah, I'd it's case by case as well, as Lyd says. So I would really recommend you working and linking up with your Green Spaces advisor who can advise on that and take you through. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay. Lyd, shall I hand back to you for the second part of the portal?
Hopefully we run a little bit smoother this time now that we're logged in. Never say never, I guess. Can you all see the screen again? All good?
Yes, perfect.
Fabulous. So as Amy did, she went through the essential criteria. So this is the second, once I get there, the second page that you'll come to once you've pressed save and moved on. So this is just kind of regular details about your organisation. It's also worth noting, I've just realised you get a kind of individual reference code here that I've just highlighted. So if you have any questions about your portal or your application, sorry, if you send that as your email subject to GMEF, then they'll be able to access this information for you. So if you get crashed out of it, or you know, something happens close to submission deadline, there should hopefully be that kind of two-way conversation that we can establish there. So that's another really great thing about the portal. So, and you can also see here that you have a percentage of completion, which is good as well as you're going along. The more questions you answer, the closer to 100%, all that good stuff. So again, just makes it really easy to keep track of how you're getting on. So this is just about your organisation, and again, it runs through excuse me, who we accept applications from, the role of the accountable body again, what that means, what you do as an organisation, contact details. So like the question previously, you can put at least 2 contacts down. So I've popped my information in here. And you're saying who will lead on the project. So like you asked previously, Elijah, you don't have to put your details down. You can put the contact who is leading the project if you so want to. You can then add your contact details as well for whatever reason as a backup. But yeah, you can add as many as you like here. And then you can add your organisational details underneath. And again, like Amy said, it's those asterisk questions that we obviously need the information for. So again, are you or are you not working with an accountable body? You can say yes, and then you just have to provide some detail about the accountable body, so who they are, where they're located, what support they're offering. So Ian, that's that question you just asked, what's that relationship there? What type are they? So this is a kind of a list of who we accept as accountable bodies. It's quite extensive, so I would be worth looking over that. And then you just go into a little bit of detail of what your organisation does. Excuse me. So, you know, who you are, what your aims are, what you do, just to give background of who we're potentially funding. If you're a charity, your charity number, when you were set up, and it's worth noting that this setup date isn't a hurdle question. It doesn't matter if you were set up specifically for Green Spaces Fund. We've got no requirement there about you have to be, you know, set up for 2 months or constituted for 2 years like other funding. That is just generally just a question. If you have any social media or a website, you can add that here. And then this section is about the policies that I briefly mentioned before. So asks you whether you have them in place, and you can get them developed prior to your project starting. So if you're filling this out and thinking, oh gosh, we've just started, we don't have these in place, but we could get them in place for June or for July when you get your money, then you just say, okay, we'll develop this before then. And that gives you a good timeline to get that developed. Or you can say, well, we've got an accountable body, they can do it for us, and then you just select that option. So that's those 3 options are the same for all of these. If you have any questions about these types of policies, what they entail, your advisor can help you there. You know, we can send you kind of ideas, templates. We have all of these in place as registered charities, so please do not worry there. So it's just a general list, nothing too out of the ordinary of what they ask for. and then it asks for bank details. So again, it asks for a statement dated within 3 months. We're not asking for any other reason than just to check that you have bank account that the money can go into. There's more information in the guidance about this. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you set the bank account up this morning to do your application. We just need evidence of a bank account. So that's that. And if you have any issues with uploading your files or anything like that, again, let us know. There is a maximum file amount. I think it comes up with a lovely little warning if it's too big for whatever reason, but that's just worth thinking about. So that's this one. So I will stop sharing, and then if anyone's got any questions, feel free.
Thanks, Lyd. Ian's put in the chat, might be useful to say something about third-party insurance. Do you mean there's a needing?
Wearing my old hat. Obviously, for Stockport Council, we were one of those, I think, probably led most of the Northwest in terms of actually setting up with our insurers a system whereby our volunteers were insured through the council. That was very much an exception. For a lot of new groups, etc., I think they'd be quite worried about having to have third-party insurance and what that means in terms of funding, cost, and so forth. I just wondered whether you've got any further insights into that. Whether Groundwork, for instance, provide third-party insurance for groups.
It's a good question. I think that, again, might be something that the accountable body can cover. If you are a new group and you are worried about that and you don't have it in place, that could come through a more established organisation that you're applying through. I think it's best to just check in with your advisor. It's an important thing, isn't it, to make sure that you know about and have in place. If you are an established group with that and you apply for things regularly, that's hopefully fine. But yeah, new groups shouldn't be put off applying if it can be done through an accountable body, or your advisor can help you talk about that, source it if you need to, answer any questions. Sorry, again, a bit vague, but yeah.
And like I said, obviously it gives you the option to say that you'll develop it prior to receiving the funding. So you've got time there if you are worrying or we need to explore different options. And, you know, we have quite a bit of time prior to deadline and panel decisions. So hopefully that's something we can work out for them.
Right. So I will continue on to the next section of the application then. So just sharing my screen. And we are on to section 3 here, about your project. So clicking start again. And again, as always on all of the pages, as Lyd says, you can see how complete your application is. Mine is not complete at all because I haven't saved anything or put anything in. But just a reminder of how much you've done. And you can always click save progress of your application at any point. On any section, you can save your progress and come back to it at a later date. That's an advantage of this portal. You haven't got to do it all at once. So for this section, they want to know a bit more detail about the project. So they would like a fully completed project cost template, which I'll show you in a second. And, you know, the more detail you can give around the costs, the better. Again, you've got to complete everything with an asterisk. So there are 2 types of grant for the Green Spaces Fund that you can apply to: a small grant of up to £15,000 or a large grant between £15,000 to £40,000. And just to note, again, you don't have to apply for that full amount. If you're a group that's looking to apply for, I don't know, 2,000 or 7,000, that's totally fine. It's just which threshold or bracket does your ask fall into. And then there's a section here about the Green Spaces Fund advisors. So it's asking you if you have been supported by one of our advisors. If you tick yes, it asks you to give their details. So if you just put their name in there. If you tick no, a little prompter comes up saying you can be assigned one if you want. Everyone's eligible for support from the advisor team. So you can get in touch with us through that email address there. And then it asks for a proposed project title. Again, your advisor can help you come up with ideas, but if you've already got one, great. A snappy title is always best. So just a couple of words to describe what your project is. And then the project summary part is quite important. It's only 100 words that you've got for this section, but just a really quick, snappy summary of what your project is, what you're trying to do. Just so, you know, at any first glance, someone can pick up exactly, right, this is a community garden project, or this is a food growing project, or this is a blue space project, you know, really snappy summary of what you're trying to do. So, which obviously you can expand on later throughout the application process. This section here is asking about whether it's a new or existing project. And then we need to know about the location. So again, you know, as part of the fund, and this is covered in the aims and some of the previous webinars, and you'll see that this in the guidance notes. The fund priorities projects from communities in greatest need. So if you are in a sort of really deprived area that really needs the green space, and that will be taken into account. We're trying to fund the people in the places that need it most. So here you need to provide a full address for your project, postcode as well. And then here, this is the what 3 words question. Now, some of you might have come across what 3 words. It's basically another map, like Google Maps, and you can find anywhere in the world, I think, and it'll give you a what 3 words name. So if I'm clicking, where are we here? I think it's taking me, oh, Oxford. Right, if I'm in Oxford and I'm over here, it's on the left there, it generates a what 3 words 3 words basically, and you can copy that and paste it into the portal. Now, just to say, it has got an asterisk there. You don't have to have this. It's a really nice to have. If you can find it, great. There's a link to what 3 words, and then you type in your postcode and it comes up with on the top, you know, there what the 3 words are that this website has generated for your project location. So that's what that is, and again, your advisor can help you with that. This is asking you to tick the GMCA districts covered by the project. So if you're in Bolton, great. If it covers multiple districts, you can tick multiple of those areas. And then project activities. So this wants to know about what you're going to be doing, including timings, a description of the activities and who will be completing them. So this is up to 500 words, so you've got a bit more time to go into detail there. And then after you've filled that in, there is a project activities template. So this is to estimate the sort of physical changes that you might be doing to the green space, the activities that will happen, and when you might be holding those activities. So if you click on that link, it takes you through to a Excel spreadsheet template. And again, any questions on this, your advisor can go through this in detail, but it's something to fill out, just giving a bit more detail specifically about the area you might create, plants, trees, people you might engage, anything else that isn't listed above that will take place as part of your project. It's just to give a bit more detail about what you'll be doing. And of course, some of those pointers there on the template won't be relevant to your project. Just fill out what is relevant to you. If you can quantify it with an amount, and then when you might be planning to do it. So you can download that, save it as a copy, save it to your computer, fill it in, and then upload it to the portal. Once you've filled that in, there's the same upload button there. And then this section here is about project participants. So talking about who will be involved in the project, what they will do, who's doing the work, any volunteers or outside agencies involved. So this is really important, and it's up to 300 words, but it's really about who is involved. If you've got all the community involved, great. You know, who might be volunteering, just a bit more detail about that. And again, there is a section further on in one of the aims that is about benefiting the community. So one of the core aims of the fund is benefiting the communities that need it most, and you have got more time to expand on who you're working with, why this is of need, and why the community that you're working with wants the project. We really want community driven projects where we can, rather than sort of projects that are done to communities. We want them to be done with and for communities. So this is just the first opportunity that you get to talk about who's involved. And then this is a new section for this round. It's about identifying 3 risks that your project might encounter, and tell us what measures you might have in place to mitigate these. Again, don't worry about this, but it's things like, you know, a risk might be, I don't know, you might run out of time to deliver the project. You might not have enough volunteers. You might you know, there's all sorts of things about maintenance that you could write down here. It's just coming up with 3 risks that might occur as part of your project and how you might mitigate against those risks. Again, there's more detail in the guidance notes, and your advisor will be able to help you through that one. That's up to 300 words. And then finally here, really important, is about project maintenance. Again, 300 word max on here. It's about how you will maintain your project after the Green Spaces Fund money has come to an end. So the fund does require a commitment to maintaining the project for a minimum of 3 years following completion. So how are you going to do that? Who's going to be involved? You might say that you're applying for match funding, for example, to help continue the project, and you could maybe write about that here. You know, if you're working with a local authority, like we talked about before, have they agreed to put in some maintenance? How will the project continue after the fund comes to an end, so that it doesn't just go back to a state of disrepair once the funding comes to an end? We just need to see that you've thought about that. So